Hi everyone, Michael Rubenfeld here. It is a beautiful Saturday morning in Poland, and I have not recorded a long video for a while. Um, and I decided to do one today because I recently got some interesting news from the Institute of National Memory, the Instytut Pamięci Narodowej, IPN, in Poland, in Gdansk, and they have files on my grandfather. My grandfather has always been a bit of a mystery to our family. We had some kind of vague stories of him. We knew that he jumped off a train on the way to Treblinka, which was pretty concrete. And then he joined the partisans, and he fought with the partisans. And then there was a kind of mystery until he sort of ended up on an oil tanker going to Sweden. And in Sweden, he met my grandmother, and then he had my mother, and then in I think 2000 no 1952 he moved to Canada, and yeah, and then the history from there. But what we learned was that my grandfather was a member of the Milicja Obywatelska. He joined in 1944, and he was a member of the Milicja Obywatelska until 1946. And in 1946, he requested a discharge, and they rejected his discharge. And so he fled. He fled on an oil tanker on the way to Gdansk, basically because he was a wanted man. He stopped showing up for duty, and we have these records of him being requested to show up and not showing up, and then he was served jail time, which he never served. And yeah, and we have his ID card. This is his ID card from when he was a member of the Milicja Obywatelska. And this is all pretty amazing. First of all, it's amazing to get this, this document, as well as other documents. And I've been sharing this news on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and I've had a real kind of mix of responses. Some people are going, wow, that's an amazing discovery. Some people think that I look like him. I don't know. What do you think? And some people are saying, you shouldn't be bragging about the fact that your grandfather was in the Milicja Obywatelska. Because, as most Polish people know, the Milicja Obywatelska was known for basically oppressing Polish people on behalf of the communist regime. And I've been kind of surprised by this response because people aren't really contemplating the context in which my grandfather would have joined the Milicja Obywatelska. And basically, anyone who would have joined, Jewish or non. But in my grandfather's case, my grandfather, his father was murdered by the Nazis, by the Germans. His mother died not long after. He lost almost his entire family, and he managed to survive the war by farting. No, he didn't fart. I mean, he probably did some farting, but I don't think that's how he survived. By fighting with the partisans. And then when the Russians freed Poland, or certainly the part of Poland that he was in, which was the Lublin region, that was a big, big deal. That was a big, big deal. They defeated the Germans. And, at this point, no one really knew what the Russians' plans were going to be for Poland. Certainly, it wasn't even until 1947 when the Milicja Obywatelska became the official police force, and then things became bad afterwards. But in my grandfather's case, he made the decision to join the communists because they were heroes. They freed Poland from the devastation that the Nazis committed. And the other thing is that from 1944 to 1946, 47, there were another 1,100 Jewish people who were murdered in Poland not by Germans but by Poles. And my grandfather, he was, he had nothing. He had absolutely nothing. He was in a place where he needed to survive, and I'm proud of him for joining the Milicja Obywatelska. It made absolute sense. He needed to survive. He needed to protect himself and his sister, who was still surviving. And frankly, I think that we spend too much time placing judgment on anyone who made the decision to join the Milicja Obywatelska, especially after the war. What choice did people have? Really, what choice? And also, would you have done differently? You just survived the devastation of the Nazi Germans. Your country has just been freed by the Russians. I would probably want to join them myself and fight for these heroes. Now, it turned out that they were horrible, but who on earth would have had the foresight to know what the communists' plans were? My grandfather, he requested a discharge. He no longer wanted to be a part of the militia. He was rejected. But even if he didn't request that discharge and he continued to fight with them or for them or to police for them, he or anyone should not be judged for this decision. Even as the understanding of where the communists were taking Poland started to come to fruition, it was a very complicated situation. You could either fight for them or you could oppose them. But once you had become a member of the militia, as you saw in my grandfather's case, they wouldn't let him go. And even though, he tried, and when he tried, they wanted to put him in jail. So this is the situation that anybody who would have joined would have been a part of once they've discovered that Milicja Obywatelska, the communists, were oppressive, and they tried to get out. They'd be put in jail. They'd be put in jail for leaving. This was the kind of regime that Poles were dealing with. And so basically, I just think it's very difficult for us to judge anyone for their decisions within the context of these histories. I'm a big believer that everyone is trying their best, at all times. People are not out to get each other. And I think that once you enter into a space where you start to judge people for their decisions, you are in fact trying to get people. You are trying to decide, you're trying to moralize and decide who's bad and who's good. And I think that in general, we should be operating under the belief that most people are good. Most people want to do good. But the context of history, wartime, post-war, communism, unless we are there and a part of this history, it's impossible to judge. And I think that most of us would probably find the situation very difficult and not necessarily know what the right decision to make. You know, hindsight is 2020, and I ultimately believe that we should be forgiving those and ourselves for decisions we might have made under extraordinary circumstances, and move forward with love, move forward with acceptance, and continue to hope for a better future for us all. Thanks. Love you.